Let's get this started then. I was super worried about the cameraman, and I'm already apologizing for the streaming audience because I'm gonna run around. I can't stay put if I don't have to, and finally I have a runway that I can actually use, so sorry for that. Session is called Forward to the Past, Back to the Future. It is a kind of a State of the Union talk. So gonna talk about security in the past year and what the future brings. Very different topic than the previous ones I was listening to. I very rarely have a feeling like I had this morning that I'm actually in a conference and I don't understand anything what they're talking about. But Swedish people would say, "Jag är ut som en snögubbe." So anyway, let's put something else in this. I'm honored that I get the chance of speaking after lunch, so I get a excited audience. Hopefully you stay awake. Last time I did this session, so I had like 40 people online giving feedback saying that thank you for such a horrible session. But that was more about, they said they're so scared, but that's not the point here. So my name is Sami Laiho. I'm a Microsoft MVP since 2011. I tour around the world teaching Windows internals and security. I started teaching security about 5 years ago. No, 2015, 9 years ago. Time flies, give and take. I started talking about security because I hated all security sessions. I went through Black Hat, DEF CON, wherever in US, and every session, wherever you would go, would be like this. I hack you like this, I hack you like this, I hack you like this, I hack you like this. And then everyone would walk out of the room like, oh, my company sucks. And the other one was that none of these demos that they usually show would work against a properly configured operating system. So that's another one that was bugging me. I don't know if I have, yeah, I had my statistics. I had to take this because I started a session last week and there was a guy from Mezzo speaking, and he started by telling how low their carbon footprint nowadays is promoting the company. And I was after him, so I had to take my own statistics. I took them from Tripit. So my carbon footprint is around 350,000 kilograms, comes from 200 days of travel, 189 airport visits a year, and I live next door to a Finnair captain that flies 3 hours less than I do. So I guess I travel quite a lot. There's some people that are not from Finland here, so I heard about yesterday. That's not the reason why I have this here, but I hope Sakke and the others have told you about kalsarikännit already, and the word itself is known to you, so this is nothing fancy for us. We all Finns know this. But you have absolutely no idea how effective this now is. Just about a month ago, things globally changed. Finland finally started to be noticed around the world, because there is nothing more important for a country to be noticed. It doesn't matter if we're the happiest people in the world, it doesn't matter if the least corrupted country in the world or whatever. What actually makes a difference is whether you've ever been on Simpsons or not. And this was broadcasted about a month ago on Simpsons in US. No one cared about Finland, no one even knew where I was from, no one knew where Finland was, but now when this aired a month ago, my LinkedIn is constantly bombarded by US people. So actually you can't really be famous in US without getting on The Simpsons. So go Finland, now we're finally famous. If you want to reach me, you can do that on Twitter or the X. We have a deal in the security society that if Elon Musk does something even more stupid than so far, we're all going to migrate over to Blue Sky. It looks exactly like Twitter. It's built by the same people as Twitter. The only difference is that the app sucks and there's no one there. But it's gonna be. It's a backup plan. We're gonna talk about backups today anyway, so that's a backup plan. It's really hard to talk about security currently without the sessions being somehow impacted by the case of city of Helsinki a few weeks ago. I thought I had fault tolerance because I have 3 kids. That's not, I don't mean like spare parts. I mean like, what I mean is I have 3 kids. 2 of them go to a state school and 1 of them goes to city school. And in the beginning they said that this breach only affected people that were kids that were studying in the public school and their parents, but then took a week and then they announced that this also applies to all private schools and all state-run schools. So that didn't work out. But case of Vastaamo, which was the big psychiatric institute that was hacked, that was the biggest crime in the history of the country, and that was still 40,000 people. So this is now up to 150,000 people. So it is a really, really big thing. I can actually talk about it because I'm not working with the case. I've been working with the city a lot, yes. And surprisingly, they contacted me beginning about 2 weeks ago. They have a huge need for security training. Easy sale. easy sale, double the price. Anyway, some magic numbers from the few years before. We'll start off with this. 2 hours is the average time it takes from an initial penetration into a company to full breach. On-prem world, that would mean domain admin access. Azure world, that would mean global admin access. So 2 hours is the time that we are trying to extend as much as we can. Relating to that is the other one which makes this interesting. 180 days is the average that they use before they do anything. So if you want to learn something from that, probably at least related to logging. So if you don't have 180 days of logs backward, there's really no way of you knowing who attacked you. That's an average. That's why if my customers ask me how much logging do we need, I usually say a year. Year backward is a good number. Windows Defender for, or Microsoft Defender for Endpoint by default logs 30 days back. So you are going to have to put some money into this to actually get that logging in. Why is it that long? Let's talk about that a little bit more. The last one is the saddest number ever and a horrible number, and I feel bad for every one of us here and everyone in the industry. 2% of victims is the amount of companies that go public if they are breached. This is after GDPR. So we already have a penalty system if you don't announce the breach in 72 hours, yet we succeed up to 2% of people will tell that they were breached. I always tell my customers that if someone goes and robs a bank, no one's going to blame the bank. You don't see news you don't see tabloid magazines with news saying that someone robbed Nordea in Helsinki. That bank is so stupid. But in this industry, it's just like no one wants to admit that they didn't do a perfect job. It's really bad because it's hard to get a budget as the threat is not visible. I just started with an Italian company this week doing a full-blown redesign of their security. I work as a security architect for many companies, so I started a brand new design and I already knew what happened, so it's always the same case. When you get budget, you can go to the customer and ask them, when were you breached? 2 months ago. Okay, fair enough. Nothing happens until it happens to yourself. Well, I was in Switzerland. That was kind of funny. I went in and they're like, oh, E5 licenses for everyone now. We're going to have this much logging and the new hypervisors and backups and immutable backups, and we're going to take everything. And I'm like, okay, so I assume you were breached. No. Okay, that's a first. Sami, come with me. And then he took me to the restaurant. They have a lunch place there, a restaurant, and there's a window outside. And the guy went to the window, and there's another building next to it, their building, and they're like, they got breached. So it needs to be like something that you can point a finger at, so it's close enough, and then things start happening. This is Veeam, backup manufacturer. Veeam says 60 to 200 days. Just want to have a few different sources so you don't think that they're all from the single source. Why do they use 200 days before they do anything with the access to your environment? That is related to the weird industry of ransomware. So ransomware, if you ask DALL-E or some other AI engine to draw you a picture of a ransomware gang arrest, it always draws the same picture. There's going to be two guys on the floor in cable ties, gold bars, millions of US dollars and 3,000 SIM cards. And then they have a title. Ransomware gang taken down by Europol. That's a freaking affiliate. That's nothing to do with the actual gang itself. So gangs are like mafia. They work in the middle. They provide services to affiliates that actually do the attacks themselves. So those are taken down all the time, but very rarely are ransomware gangs taken down, except for Lockbit, maybe this year. That was a success. So they work in the middle, and they will license the stuff for this. If you find a attack suit from a victim, they actually have fingerprinting on them. And that fingerprinting looks a little stupid because why would you try to identify attack code? But that's for licensing purposes. So they have to know who's paid licenses and not. City of Säkylä was attacked last year. Well, almost you could say the previous year because it was during Christmas as always. Säkylä was attacked with Lockbit 1. Lockbit already had two new code systems, Lockbit 2 and Lockbit 3. They were attacked with Lockbit 1, which, by the way, no one officially would admit that it's Russian. Funny thing being that if you had Lockbit 1 in Finland actually going around the country quite a lot, but it very rarely attacked anyone because Lockbit 1 will not activate on your machine if you install the Russian keyboard layout. Sherlock might think that it could be Russian. Why were they attacked with Lockbit 1? Because we had Lockbit 2 and 3. Because they hadn't paid for their software assurance. SA agreement hadn't been paid. So the attacker that attacked them didn't pay their SA agreement towards the ransomware gang. So they had to run old code because they were not paying their yearly amounts. It's an insane business.
Horrible session.
Yeah, I know. This will make it even more.
Early feedback.
Yeah, early feedback, yeah. I like interaction with most people.
My wife says the same.
Yeah. So,
please, sir, continue.
Yeah, thank you. So, no, I have absolutely no idea what I was talking about. SA agreements hadn't been paid, so this is they have hundreds of employees working for them. They have way better service desk SLA than you do. So it's always good to remember that this is more compared to Al Capone and Mafia in the US. They don't do the normal heists themselves. Someone else does that dirty work. It's a tough work being a ransomware affiliate. It's not an easy job. You have to do inventory of customer data and you have to communicate with the customer, and it's hard work. Have to respect that. Life choices, that's hard work.
Are the salaries okay?
They're fine.
Okay.
Not that I would know, but I've heard stories.
Of course not.
Just to be clear.
Asking for a friend.
Yes, asking for a friend, yeah. Access harvesting operators are the ones that will go through around your Ivanti systems and Fortinets and stuff like that. They go and gather your usernames and passwords. They only sell them because it's a lot easier job. If you can get 2 million from a customer, but you can just find 100 weak passwords, sell them 20K each, it's a lot easier job. So access harvesting are the ones who will go to Shodan and see what they have to offer and start hacking you, and then they just resell that. Occasionally that hits a target like City of Helsinki, which means that now the bidders who are bidding on this on the dark web, the bidders will also include nation-level threats. So Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, they're all involved, which means that the bidding also takes longer. So they start to take a long time before that deal is done. That's why we extend that time to that, like up to 200 days before anything happens. Just the deal making behind. How was city of Säkylä hacked? There's a Finnish telco. And that Finnish telco, what the customer did was that they don't know their security that well, so they decided to outsource it. And they bought services, all their VPN services from a telco. And that telco put in a VPN gateway which had an admin account called test with the password test. Our biggest private known breach probably last year was Uponor. Uponor was hacked because they had a video surveillance camera in the US plugged into the wrong network. So one guy plugged in a Linux computer, which that really is, so it plugged in a D-Link camera and plugged it into the wrong network. There's a vulnerability in that camera. They got into the camera, from there to the server that stores the videos, and from there to the Windows environment, from there to Helsinki, and then encrypted the database in Finland. That smaller than my fist camera was the one that caused that. We'll take pride on this being Finnish, because most of you get hacked because of Linux. It's a Finnish operating system, so way to go, Finland. This has changed a little bit, so now they are combining this. The RAS companies, ransomware as a service, they want to be a one-stop shop, so they've started to merge their services. Now you can buy also the access harvesting from the ransomware gang, and they also will rent you a botnet if you want to do denial of service attacks. So one-stop shop. The coolest one was they internally like it to call a CSM because it's a customer success manager. But we call them RAS managers. Okay? But you get dedicated if you would, now that you're asking for a friend. If you would like to buy services from the ransomware provider, then they will appoint you a personal assistant. You get your personal RAS manager that will take care of you and make sure that you have a successful business. We used to have things like rules of war. We've had laws of war. I mean, we've had some sort of regulations even for really bad things. That used to apply to ransomware as well. A few years back, before the Ukraine situation started, we still had unofficial rules that they do not attack hospitals. That's all down the toilet after the Ukraine situation started. So nowadays, hospitals are attacked all the time. Like you maybe read on the news yesterday or the day before, London was hit very hard with this. So there were 5 major hospitals down because of the ransomware case that actually involved a company which is related to Synlab, if you know that. Not Synlab, but related to them. So not actually the hospital itself, but the laboratory systems. So those are all down the toilet. If you go back a few years, I had a customer who was asked to pay $5 million, but because it was Christmas, he got 50% off. There was some decency in this business. Christmas spirit. Give you 50% because it's Christmas. No more. We're playing against a very difficult enemy because we are all the time being under budget cuts, but our enemy has more money than ever. So blue team needs to find every vulnerability. Red team only has to find one. That's always been unfair, but also money-wise, it's just a disaster now. I have a customer in the US who was hacked because they brought in a USB key. The guy who walked in with the USB key and plugged it into his computer was paid $350,000 to do that. So it's not anymore like beer money. This is life-altering money. 28% of European attacks involve an internal threat. That's quite a lot, almost 1/3. So statistically, I'm not looking at you. But statistically, quite a few of you would think when you're offered $350,000 to bring in a USB key to your company. So, not saying that any of us would be that immoral that we would do it, but think about it. Average ransoms in the last 5 years have increased from $5,000 to $1.5 million, so it's a lot more to play with. We have devices that are kids' toys. I actually didn't even think about showing this, but now that this is a OMG cable, if you've seen one. You can buy one from hack5.org. I have to have a knot on it, so I will differentiate that I don't charge my own phone with this. But this one, the small white compartment on top of my fingers there, that has a wireless access point, a web server, and a keylogger. So this costs $149. Think what they play with, not with our toys. These are the ones like Flipper Zero, where you go and brag to your friends that you can hack a hotel room door. These are just toys. But even these are convincing, but it's getting very science fiction. You can use that as a wireless client as well, so it works a little bit better by connecting out of the computer instead of being a web server, instead of being an access point. So distance is a little bit better when it connects outside. And this sounds like science fiction, but I already have a US customer where those were used to get the connection out of the company, and they flew a drone that had the access point. And that drone was flown outside of the building to get the connection from the devices. Starts to sound quite science fiction, but it's reality. But they have budget to do this. There was a VMware zero-day vulnerability 2 weeks ago sold on the dark web for $1.7 million. That would be 5 years ago bought only by nation-level threats. So that wouldn't be bought by anyone but a country, because no one would have money for it. Now that's just kids' toys for them. Finland is so happy to be #1. We are the happiest country in the world. One of the least corrupted countries in the world. We are so happy for these statistics. This one we're not that proud of. So that sadly we can say that this is contributed largely to Herzner data centers, but still this is a sad number. So Finland is the most attacked country when we go back to last year's statistics. So if you think that you don't need to worry about DDoS, everyone is worrying about DDoS. That's just background noise nowadays.
Why is Finland #1?
We were we weren't doing that well on this, but we would always lose to China and US, but now it's mostly I hate the word geopolitical situation, but in this case, yes, mainly Russia. So I'm driving, tomorrow I have to drive to the eastern side to speak at Saimasec, which is a local security conference, and it's funny driving that way because my BMW Navigator looks really funny. It's like you're driving that big road towards Kotka, and you drive that, and suddenly your BMW jumps 200 meters left on the map. I'm like, what the hell is happening? And then 200 meters the other way. It's like GPS jamming everywhere. So yes, it's our nice neighbors. It might not be them, you know, just like we spoke, might not be them, but maybe. So ransomware operators are allowed to be, they're not really, you normally don't say they're Russians, but Russians allow them to operate as long as they don't hit domestic targets. That's the real rule. That's why they try to identify your windows that if it's Russian, it should not be activating. Well, we had some success after taking down the freaking whole city of Chicago Community Hospital and a lot of parts of the whole city of Chicago Lockbit, which is absolutely the most active group. They caught the guy, or that's at least what we assume. So this was the guy. Doesn't look that dangerous. But he's personally required or asked by the court to pay back $100 million. That's his personal gain from the latest attacks. So money, numbers are insane. It's just so high. But we can't just say that no one's doing anything about it. Even our police forces are, honestly, they do have some success. So I want to give some credit to them as well. Even this traditional old police force is starting to understand how to live in the cyber world. Oh, first time. Some numbers that you should understand. These are numbers, so that's 2022. These are numbers, just for you. So, sorry. It's a little harsh.
What are the things below?
Yeah. These are, we call them colors. And then these are characters.
How insensitive and colorblind?
Oh, I know, I'm sorry. I don't know if the left one is that important because it's been ransomware for a long, long time, being our biggest attack types, but this one has changed heavily. So if we go back 3 years, you would be mostly hacked because you didn't have MFA. So you didn't have multi-factor authentication on your accounts. Everyone went to the security sessions. All statistics showed that everyone gets attacked because of phishing. So what did we do? We deployed MFA. Hopefully you did. So weird that some of you are smiling like that. But hopefully you have MFA on all your accounts. Now, we did such a good job that this means that we changed the statistics. Now you mostly get attacked because you don't patch your systems. I'm always saying that I'm getting more and more boring the older I get. Sakke doesn't say anything now.
Texting my son.
Good. Keep doing that. So I always say that I'm getting more and more boring the older I get, because think about the instructions. If you come to me and really ask me statistically what should you do not to get breached? Run Windows Update. Make good backups. It's like all the instructions are like the lamest and most boring. What's number one security control based on Center for Internet Security? CIS announces the technical controls that you need to have to stay safe. What is number one and number two? Does someone know? Inventory. Up-to-date hardware and software inventory. So if you go back home after this and you want to fix your security, you should make sure you have up-to-date software and hardware inventory. There's really nothing more boring than inventory or documenting. Maybe budgeting, you might know something about that. I don't. But
it's too boring.
Yeah, I know, too boring. So honestly, these are super simple instructions. But currently, I have to go to my customers. I have an oil refinery in Finland. They have 2 VMS servers that were last rebooted 13 years ago. And you go to them and say you have 2 days to patch your systems. So I'm not trying to pretend here that I wouldn't understand that this is not easy, but we have to start changing people's minds on this. Some of you are old enough that you remember that we used to test antivirus definition upgrades in companies. Just roll out them first to IT. If it doesn't break anything, then we roll it out to everyone. We had to stop it back in the days because there was one upgrade every day. So we couldn't test anymore. There was too much. Windows operating system only, on average, has 100 patches per month. That's 3 per day. I'm going to make t-shirts that say patch more, test less. You can go to the risk management, they'll buy this anytime, because the reality with the risk management department is that you give them 2 options. Do you want to have a potential 2-hour downtime controlled by you, decided when it happens and you can recover with a snapshot, or would you like a 3-month downtime controlled by a third party?
Yes.
Yes. So that's relatively easy, but I'm sorry, it's really boring instru. I have a rule for my customers. You patch anything that gets an update, critical update, you patch anything that gets a critical update on days 2 or 3. 3 was too slow, I admit. We had a few cases where 2 would have been okay, so 3 was too slow. But I always say you patch everything on days 2 or 3. And if you have a Ivanti or a Fortinet device, those you have to patch on days that start with a T. Tuesday, Thursday, today, and tomorrow. Are you attacked or not? Finland, 95% of companies have less than 5 employees. around, okay? So even though smallest ones are a very big target group, although of course bigger companies are more better for the attacker, but everyone is under this. My own family factory was attacked with the ransomware just a few weeks ago. Everyone gets ransomware, that's not the problem. It's about if it escalates or not. So they got one computer, tried to get onto our servers with RDP connections, but we have a privileged access workstation concept that won't allow it, so then they gave up, just encrypted the machine and left. And the result was that we had to spend about 20 minutes to get one file that was only on that machine from the backup, so everything's up and running and no worries, but everyone gets it, so at some point. You don't get on the news unless it spreads. These are Windows upgrades from the last 5 years, so yearly upgrades. So you have to upgrade a lot more.
How much did they ask for the ransomware for your family factory?
Actually nothing. That's the funny thing about this. I'm still investigating because I'm sadly a little bit afraid that that actually happened just because of me. Because we have a clothing factory in Finland, we don't work with the military anymore or anything like that. And we had a ransomware that encrypted files using a method that 1 month ago was posted online being only used against governments. And I might be under a targeted attack. Because I've been, as you said, I've been on TV telling people that I destroyed 28 Finnish factories on the Russian side and stuff like that. So
You're alive now.
Yet, still.
But I'm glad you're not pointing fingers at anybody, so.
To keep this realistic, mostly Finnish entities lose money because of romance scams. It's just kind of, you can measure this in so many different ways. You can measure how many breaches, you can measure how much money is lost. And now we have okay, this will hit very well. There's a few ladies here as well, but not that many. So now I have a good audience for this. It's our fault. Think about this. Most romance scams, they are the old ones. On Facebook, someone tells you that they used to work for the US military. They're a retired captain. They want to move to Finland and marry you if you just pay their trip. 95% of, really sorry, I get very easily cancelled with this nowadays, so I'm trying to be polite here, but there's 95% of victims are women. And that only tells that Finnish men make really bad husbands. Think about it, honestly. Like people on Facebook say, I'm from the military, I want to marry you in Finland. Send me money. If that works,
yes.
We must suck. We must suck.
Maybe they have a photo.
Maybe they have a photo. True that, true that. These are the new numbers. They're in Finnish. It's an easy language. We learned it at like 3 years old. So everything is just going up. That's what you need to understand. Finnish people lost to cybercriminals 44.2 million euros. Banks already stopped 32.7 million before that. Love letter scams went up to 10.4. Investment scams went to double. This is the even more traditional. You send me €1, I send 2 back. And then we have CEO scams where CEO says, now you have to pay this invoice.
That's a huge scam.
I know. We have a support group, you know, a therapy group. We're both CEOs, so we know how this works. Sad thing is that normally it's the...
Silence!
Normally it's the employee being scammed by someone pretending to be us, but in our case it's... Pay the invoice! Must be legit!
Pay now! Send me iPhone coupons.
Yeah. Gift cards to Amazon. Best Buy. This is 1 year ago. So this is Mikko Hyppönen. I hope many of you know him. And most of us understand that he doesn't speak Turkish and his voice doesn't sound like this.
Sayın Bakan Yardımcıları, kamu kurumlarımızın değerli yöneticileri, kıymetli katılımcılar, basınımızın değerli mensupları. Hepinizin malumu olduğu üzere kilit.
So this is 1 year ago. That's just built by AI, but it's still a face swap in that sense that you speak to a webcam and then it imitates that, turns it into Mikko, but doesn't use audio, and it's not done from a script. It's actually a live person, the one on the left-hand side speaking to the camera. This is NVIDIA's GPU before they became the second biggest company in the world yesterday. So this was back then, and now I'm not a PowerPoint MVP. I don't know how to get rid of this freaking video here. This is me. This is. I know.
Siellä IglooConfissa. Halusin näyttää teille, miltä tekoälyn luoma versio minusta näyttää. Tämä on tallennettu ilmaisella sovelluksella, webbikameralla ja Jabran pöytämikrofonilla. Jotta uskotte, että kyseessä ei ole oikea Sami, kerron nyt teille jotain, mitä oikea Sami ei koskaan sanoisi. Kannattaa aina kirjautua tietokoneelle admin-tunnuksilla. Ja sitten sama englanniksi. Hello everyone at IglooConf. I wanted to showcase to you how an AI version of myself looks like. This was created by a free app, a webcam, and just a tabletop Jabra microphone. To prove that I'm not real, I will tell you something that the real Sami would not. You should always log on to Windows with admin rights. And now the same in French. Salut tout le monde et bienvenue au IglooConf. Je voulais vous montrer à quoi ressemble une version IA de moi-même. Elle a été créée avec une application gratuite, une webcam et simplement un microphone de table Jabra.
Honestly, how can you make this French? This is so unfair. You can make a Jabra microphone sound sexy. Table Jabra. It's like Finnish. Jabran pöytämikki. Same.
I get the Roma scan now.
Here's my voice on another face, completely created from a script by AI. Nowadays, even body parts can be moved and not just the face, as you can easily see from the hands in this video.
Xerox does 140 countries, 65 different languages for all their end-user training with just one guy in US scripting, writing in Notepad and copy-pasting. So it honestly can be used for good as well, it's not that. But now you combine this with the fact that it works for some people that you just send them a message on Facebook that says, send me money, I will marry you. And this is where we're headed. This is low-key, no cost, just at my own house, tabletop Jabra microphone, bad stuff. This is what you get with money. Yet already we had a first CEO scam of around €1 million happened in the middle of January, and 2 weeks ago UK lost £20 million with an AI scam. So this is what you get with money.
Rumor has it you can also do this with live video. Can that be right?
Yes, we can do it live real time. And this is like really at the cutting edge of what we can do today, moving from offline processing to we're processing it so fast that you can do it in real time. And so...
Well, I'm going to challenge you and your team to do a bit of a first here. I mean, there's video of you right up on that screen. Show us something surprising you can... Oh, my gosh. Wait.
So there we go. This is, you know, a live real-time model of Chris on top of me, running in real time.
And next you'll tell me that it can... Oh, Lord. I am so uncomfortable with this. I am so uncomfortable. Can it do voice as well?
We think it can. We're really pushing the limits of AI technology now. And I'm talking exactly as I've heard. As Thomas Graeber is coming out.
600 millisecond lag.
I'm deeply sorry, everyone, to subject you to this. You know, there's something possibly even worse. So to come clean on this, they made me, you know, they took some shots of me a couple of weeks ago doing different facial expressions that they captured a video model. And it turns out, I discovered this week, that they can apply that not just to Tom, but to anyone. So my dear friend Sunny Bates is here in the front row. Sunny, do you consent to channel inner me for a minute? Well, can we try that? I'm really worried about this. Do we have Sunny on screen? Oh, there's Sunny. Oh no, oh no, oh no.
Chris, you look amazing.
All right, enough of that. Cut that.
That is a around 100,000 euro rental equipment if you want to do a demo like that. So it's a very expensive. But that's TED conference. They have slightly more expensive ticket. They have the same system as here that you have to apply to even be allowed to participate in the conference. But the normal ticket, I've never been allowed as an attendee. Mikko Hyppönen is the only IT person really from Finland who's spoken there. Okay, there's one other which I don't remember because I remember messing this up before. But anyway, so only a few people have spoken. The ticket costs around 8,000 euros if you're accepted to be an attendee. I mean, so they have a lot of budget to play with. But there's a good example. I think it's relatively good even with the free apps. And then you think of how much money you can put into it if you're looking for 20 million pounds. One thing that changes heavily since the war is that you have to be equipped with backups more than ever because these were weaponized heavily. So this is a timeline of what is known as fake ransomware. So ransomware that would never be able to restore anything. It's only meant to be a weapon. Just destroys data and nothing else. We call them vipers. We used to have a few of them, maybe a year, many years we didn't have a single one. This is the most famous one, not Petya. Many of you remember hearing probably about the Maersk case. Took down 15% of global trade because of a ransomware attack. 15 minutes, encrypted 65,000 workstations, blocked all telecommunication and blocked all employees from getting into any buildings. I thought that 15% still sounds quite a lot. But then I saw the first PDF they showed where you had 14 pages of PDF, 2 columns of text, both sides. And they were like, here's a list of what we think might be affected. And I was looking at the list like, what the? These are servers. Like, what the? Are these servers? No, they're the companies we own. Okay. Do you know why it got saved? What saved 15% of our global trade?
Was it backup in Australia?
No.
Africa?
Yeah, not a backup. They had a domain controller in Africa which was down because of a power failure and they didn't have a UPS. Some might call that luck. I was teaching a group of people somewhere in Europe. After 4 days, everyone's like leaving from the class and I'm like, so did you learn something? Yes, no UPS. It's like, thanks. Anyway, if you look at the last one here, that's 2022. This is Russia. So when you saw the news from the Polish border when Ukrainians were trying to flee the country on the first day of the war and there was a 2-kilometer line of people trying to get out of the country, that's because the border control was wiped out with a wiper. So they had to manually write down every people's passport numbers and that's why the line was there. So absolute warfare. On the first day of attack, cyber attacks at the same time wipes out the border control systems with a ransomware that could never be restored. So you need to take care of your backups. I don't have that much time on a session like this and I have no idea if you have any responsibility of the infrastructure that you're using. So I had to pick and choose a little bit on what I want to show or what I want to talk about. So I decided that I'll take the first one that I do wherever I go. Whatever customer I meet and they want advice from me how they're going to stay secure. This has changed after the war as well. I used to go in and talk to them about Active Directory tiering or Entra ID tiering and privileged access workstation, stuff like that. Nowadays I go in and say that you have to make sure that you cannot manage your hypervisors or your backups with the domain account that you're trying to protect. That's what we fix first. If you can go to VMware vConsole, log in with an AD account on there, oh boy, you're screwed. Okay? Even worse with the backups. Got a Veeam backup running and you use an AD that you're protecting with the backups to authenticate to manage that. Even more screwed. So we have to first make sure we can sleep well, because we know we can restore operations if something happens. So we start from that. So very different approach than what used to be. You need immutable backups and you need immutable logs. I think there's still some hope for human intelligence, because I have to show you, I draw everything now with AI, of course, because they say you don't have to worry about copyrights anymore. So I draw everything with AI. This is after like 10 to 15 prompts telling that idiot, sorry, that it should draw a safe that has these logs, okay? Because I started by saying that I need a picture of immutable logs, and it drew this. I love it. They are immutable logs. So everyone gets attacked first by Finnish operating systems. So normally everyone nowadays always gets attacked by Linux, because your devices that are connected to the internet are Linux normally. And then all the havoc is caused by Windows. Remember, Linus Torvalds publicly said, when he was asked, how do you see the market share of Linux desktops? He gets a little bit mad, as we probably know. It's not a joke, he's now in anger therapy. And he just said that you stop trying to use that Linux as a desktop. It was never built to be nothing but a solid operating system and a server. Stop doing things that it's not meant for. Now, Linux is gaining foothold, but 2024 was not the year of the Linux desktop, okay? So that you can't cause havoc with that. You have to have Windows to cause like real trouble. Don't quote me on that MVP promise. So,
CEO promise.
CEO promise, yes. Small NDA. Mental CEO, no. So first vector will always be Linux. How long do you have to react to this? Any public IP attached system are the ones that you should be first worried about because of Shodan. Shodan currently can scan the whole public IPv4 address space in 4 minutes. Used to be days. So if you plug in a router and you don't change the default password, you got 4 minutes maximum, because that's what it takes to scan the whole thing. It's these cameras, stuff like that, that you plug on the internet because they're Linux, they get attacked first, or remote desktop protocol. That's the other one that might happen as well. I took Finland here from Shodan just of interest because we're in Helsinki. We can see that no one in Finnish, there's like no one lives anywhere else but Helsinki probably. But anyway, Helsinki has 1.5 million IP addresses found on Shodan, and if you start browsing images through this, you can easily see that there's a reason why RDP is called, or why we say that RDP stands for Ransomware Deployment Protocol. This is what it looks like. There's a Russian there. It's administrator. Good thing in Finland it's järjestelmävalvoja, so we don't have to, no one will hack us, we don't need even passwords. Oh, someone has some, what the? Sakke? Yeah. Yeah, that's pillow cam.
Do you like it?
Yeah, hello, yeah. Is that a new pillow? Okay, I'm not gonna touch anything, okay? Just to be clear. But you can easily see that that's the other big problem is honestly the RDP. So I once did that on a demo in a situation like this, and I showed the audience that I'm like, wow. I showed the audience a camera from Japan, and because you can usually move the cameras as well, you can pan and tilt them. So then I showed them the view from a Japanese camera, And it's in a backyard, and there's this golden retriever going in the yard, and I was like, oh, it's so sweet. This is how you can use the camera. And suddenly, behind the golden retriever was a completely naked woman. And I panicked, so I just took the laptop. I will never do that again. So I'm not going to demo that. So please, you need to start patching your systems. What we're going to end this with is not questions, sorry, one slide too much. One thing that I try to teach all my customers, we all know that security departments are also known as no-no departments. You go ask them anything, can we deploy this? No. Could we use a new authentication? No. Because their only job usually is to secure their own ass. I hate these. Security should be a support function that keeps production up and running, then it's done correctly. But if people do security just by thinking, as long as we as a department don't fail, we're good, I hate it. One thing I try to teach all my customers is that you have to understand that your job is not to stop the enemy. Your job, as talking to a security department, I mean, your job is not to stop the enemy. Your job is to slow them down. And it's very hard for any security person to give up on that, because they will hone. They have a 95% working solution, which we could deploy in a few days and get a good protection. No. They will tweak it for 3 months before they take it from proof of concept to production, because it's not perfect yet. It leaks. There's a theoretical hole here. If you use an electron microscope, you might get through this. I mean, like, and then we get no progress, and I hate it. You have a SOC for that, Security Operations Center. Their job is to catch those after you slowed them down and made them look weird. I have a great example from the hotels that I spent a lot of time in. So in the hotel, the job of the lock is not to stop a thief that, come on, has a key. Think about this. If I take a key and I go upstairs and I go to my room with my key, this is normal behavior. What if I find a key and I take it and I start going through every freaking door in the hotel? Is that the lock's job to stop that? No. Camera surveillance. Reactive security reacts to an anomaly. Our job in IT security is to slow them down, extend that 2 hours as much as we can, and make them go like this. Because the SOC analysts can't identify normal behavior from that stream of hundreds of thousands of events. But when you have someone knocking on every freaking door every second like this, hopefully your SOC will notice that, okay? So reactive security will then fix the rest of it. And now I'm over time, so if you have questions, I'm going to hang out here. Metallica starts at 9, so we're all good, but I'm not going to steal your break. So thank you so much for joining the session, and I hope to talk to you later.